We're very lucky because there's several alternative treatments. The first one is mandibular advancement splints, which basically change the position of the mandible, which is the lower jaw to the lay person. And how that works is it pulls the jaw forward. And here's one I prepared earlier. So this is a picture of a face. This is the bottom jaw here, the mandible. This represents a fat pad that runs down the back of your airway, which is very important to get rid of if you want to help your sleep apnea. The tongue, believe it or not, has been shown to be like Wagyu beef. So I don't know if you're all familiar with Wagyu beef, but that's marbled beef. It's got lots of fat in it, and your tongue's no different. So it's not rocket science to realise if you add a fat pad to your airway, Wagyu beef to you, have a tongue that's like Wagyu beef, then in fact you'll end up with a small airway. It's not rocket science. That's why we want you to lose weight. All right, but given you've done all that and your BMI's down to under 25, which is sort of a nice arbitrary figure, we can then pull the bottom jaw forward, which then opens the airway further, plus stabilises the soft tissue in that airway. So what we do there is we use a little splint to allow that. So it's sort of like a mouth guard, but two mouth guards, one for the top and one for the bottom. And they sit together and hold the bottom jaw forward. They're very, very good. The next option would be surgery. And with surgery, they tend to cut off this part here. This is the uvula, which is like, you know, in cartoons when you see that dangly bit, when the cartoon characters open their mouth and you see this little punching bag up the back. Well, that's the uvula. So there's a few surgical procedures around, but generally they fall into the category of either soft tissue, which means that dangly bit, or hard tissue, which means to actually move the mandible and the maxilla, or one or the other, forward. So it's sort of a permanent splint in a way. It's what we call morbid, which means it's not very comfortable, and you know, I only ever recommend that treatment if you need it for orthognathic purposes, meaning that you need it to give you a better bite or occlusion, or if you're grossly malformed and you've got a very receded bottom jaw and you actually want to look better. So there's more to it than just primarily treating it for the sleep apnea, although that procedure is done quite regularly. So that's an alternative. And another alternative is that we can just work on the tongue by itself. So we leave the bottom jaw alone. We don't do anything morbid. We simply put a little suction cup on our tongue, and it's called a tongue, the one we use is called a tongue stabilizing device. It's not quite as, people are not as compliant, meaning they don't adhere to the treatment as well on that as what they do on mandibular advancement splints, but they're still very effective if you can get used to wearing it.